This is a day to celebrate. This is a day that has been 6 years in the making, in that when Minneapolis recognized that we had an affordable housing shortage, we recognized that we, like so many other cities throughout the country, needed to increase our supply of housing. The 2040 plan helped us get there. When we recognized that we had a long-term issue with exclusionary zoning that segregated out both people and neighborhoods, we knew that we had a lot of work to do to be more inclusive. The 2040 plan helped us get there. When we recognized that we wanted to see a beautiful diversity of housing options and therefore a beautiful diversity of people in every neighborhood, the 2040 plan helped us get there. When we wanted to push back on some of the intentional segregation that we've seen, get rid of single-family exclusive zoning and make sure that we can have a beautiful cornucopia of affordable housing options in every neighborhood, the 2040 plan helped us get there. And then ultimately when litigation arose and we knew that we all needed to step up to make sure that that 2040 plan was protected so that long into the future we can ensure that people of a variety of different incomes and backgrounds in a variety of different housing options can live together in the same place. All these people and more standing behind me stepped up to ultimately get this job done. This is indeed something to celebrate here today because this is the kind of transformational work that local government, when partnering with our incredible state legislators and our federal partners, can ultimately make something really beautiful happen. And I'll tell you, as soon as we lift our heads up, because we can often get stuck in kind of the morass of the work that we do on a day-to-day basis, but when you lift your head up, you recognize that Minneapolis is being seen around the country as a leader in the affordable housing space. We're seen as a leader in this push to desegregate cities, and we're seen as a municipality to copy and to replicate in the work that we're having right now. We are seeing right now some of the lowest rent increases in the entire country. That's in part due to the supply increase that we've seen. That's in part due to the subsidy that our legislative branch has helped us get done and the city has added to. And of course, that's due to the 2040 plan. And so what we figured out here is a recipe for success. Does that recipe mean that we're done and we're washing our hands clean of the issue that we know is a continued affordable housing crisis? Of course not. But what this means is that the work that we are doing is making it happen for a whole lot of people. Now, you don't need to take my word for it. Check with Secretary Yellen, one of the most important and powerful people in the entire world, who said that Minneapolis is in so many respects leading the way. So we're proud. We now get to continue on with this important 2040 work. And by the way, there are a number of projects that had been stalled out due to the litigation. Those projects can now move forward. Housing for people that need it can now move forward. Housing options in neighborhoods that previously restricted the diversity of housing supply can now move forward. And like I said, that is due to so many people that I want to thank here. I want to give a gigantic thank you to our entire Minneapolis delegation, to the whole state legislature. In particular, I do want to call out Senator Fate, Representative Jordan, and Representative Mike Howard, for their truly incredible work in helping to make this happen. They were either big authors or big advocates of this plan. You know, we talk about this being an all-hands-on-deck effort. This was not just one hand, this was a whole lot of hands and a whole lot of decks all working together to really make this happen. I want to give a huge thank you to our city council, both past and present, that helped to make this happen. And I'm really honored to be joined by Council Member Oreen Chowdhury, who has been an advocate for this particular proposal, not just while in office, but before. I think I can say that as well. To our city staff, who have been working tirelessly on this thing for quite a long time, I want to thank them. Obviously, the road is not over. We still got a long way to go in a number of different respects, but this legislation that passed at the state level allows us to now move forward. We can move forward with the plans outlined through 2040, and this is the kind of thing that will have a long, multi-decade, even multi-generational impact. I also want to thank some of the developers and the people that ultimately get some of these projects done that would not have been possible without the 2040 plan. And one example is the building that we're in right now. A big thank you to Jeff Hall and Sean Sweeney for making this happen. And this is one example of so many. Some of these projects, as I said, have been stalled out. I want to give a big thank you to the workers that helped make them happen. I see Dan McConnell representing labor in the building trades. This results in a whole lot of jobs for people that deserve fair pay in the city. And I want to also thank everybody who's advocated for this along the way. I see Chris Meyer standing right in the front and center. This has been a long time coming. So we're thrilled to now move forward. And I am thrilled now to introduce Representative Sidney Jordan, who has been an advocate for this diversity of housing options in every neighborhood for as long as I've known her, and I've known her for a really long time. Let me bring up Representative Sidney Jordan.
Hi everyone, my name is State Representative Sidney Jordan. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm proud to represent the people of Northeast Minneapolis and Southeast Como in the Minnesota House of Representatives. And the reason I'm here today is because I was the chief author of House File 4028 that would protect the Minneapolis 2040 plan. And you heard a lot about why this plan was so critical for our housing stock here in Minneapolis to make sure that everyone here could live with dignity and respect, but it also had incredible statewide impacts on housing too. We know that Minneapolis is a leader, but other cities are looking to our lead to replicate some of the work that we did to ensure that everyone can be housed with dignity and respect. And while I do care greatly about housing, the real reason why I wanted to carry this bill and why I fight for this housing diversity is because I care about the environment. I come to this work as an environmentalist. And we know that the Minneapolis 2040 plan is a plan to make sure that everyone can live in housing, but also is a plan to reduce our carbon footprint, to reduce vehicle miles traveled, which is the #1 source of carbon emissions in the state of Minnesota. It also allows people to live in areas where there is less storm runoff from all the single-family homes. This plan also protects our natural areas in Minnesota and our agricultural areas that are key to sequestering carbon by reducing sprawl as city needs to move out. We know that more people want to live in Minnesota. They're going to want to live in Minnesota in large part because of climate change. It might be a little bit warm today, but we know that Minnesota is currently on track to weather some of our housing and our environmental catastrophes that are looming in other parts of the country, and more people are going to want to live in Minnesota. Another reason why I'm so grateful that the legislature was able to stand up and protect all cities, especially Minneapolis, is because I am someone who lives in a fourplex. Housing affordability was something that I struggled with when I wanted to purchase my own home as a single person. And the only way I was able to do that was because I was able to buy a unit in a fourplex. And everyone should be able to purchase a home because we know this is how we're going to grow and strengthen the middle class. And so the legislature found it to be imperative that we stand up for Minneapolis's 2040 plan and make sure that all cities know that they can have the stability and have certainty when they are crafting ambitious plans like Minneapolis have for their comprehensive plans for their city. And so this was something that the legislature needed to do. We were, as a Minneapolis House delegation, all 11 of us were united and made this our #1 priority and stood strong to ensure that it was passed, and I'm proud to say that it was. And one member of our Minneapolis delegation that was an incredible advocate for us is our housing chair, Representative Mike Howard. With that, I would like to invite him to come up next and speak.
Yeah, well said. Well said. Let's go, Mike.
Good afternoon. My name is Mike Howard. I represent Ridgefield and Minneapolis, and I'm the chair of our housing committee in the Minnesota House. I want to start by saying thank you to Mayor Fry, to the council members here in Minneapolis, and to the Minneapolis residents who had the vision and foresight to support a comp plan that is truly nation-leading, that is creating hundreds, if not thousands, of new homes and helping us address our affordable housing crisis here in Minnesota. As I talk to leaders all across the state and across the country, they view what's happening here in Minneapolis as the vision for the future, where we recognize that the status quo is not working, is broken, and is not producing the housing that we need, especially the affordable units of housing that we need. The this past legislative session, we worked with a broad coalition to make sure that the legislature provided the clarity we needed for Minneapolis and all cities to have the vision for the future to build homes and vibrant communities that we need. That was necessary because of the Minneapolis 2040 lawsuit, and because of our litigation, that lawsuit is dead. Functionally speaking, because what it allows us to do is in statute be clear that cities can engage in comp planning, engage in the kind of pro-housing and pro-environment policy that our communities so desperately need. And I also, on that note, want to thank a coalition of folks that helped us get this done. It wasn't just the city of Minneapolis, it was cities across the state. And I want to thank the League of Minnesota Cities. It wasn't just housing advocates, it was affordable for-profit housing advocates, it was labor, it was environmental groups, dozens of which came forward to say that if we want to address our climate change crisis, we need to be focused on our housing policy. And housing policy, like we see with the Minneapolis 2040 plan, is exactly the direction we need to go in this state. The last thing I would say is, when I think about ending this litigation and allowing cities to move forward, what is so important about that is that without legislative action, this lawsuit was holding up the status quo. And in my time at the legislature and as housing chair, I have seen nothing that's more dangerous to addressing our housing crisis than the status quo, because it is the status quo that has got us into this mess. We will not build the homes that we need to meet this moment without ingenuity at all levels of government. That's what we're seeing here today in this housing development right here, and what we need to see more of all of the state. And I'm so excited that together we're able to take those steps forward. Thank you. And next, I'd like to introduce Councilmember Chowdhury.
All right. Yes.
Hi everyone, my name is Councilmember Oreen Chowdhury. I am the chair of Intergovernmental Relations, and I am so excited to be here. Mayor Fry is right. This is an opportunity for us to celebrate. When I got elected onto the council, I knew that this was going to be a huge legislative priority for the city and the region, and I kept in my mind that one day we would be here and we would win. And it feels so incredible to be standing here in Ward 12 to celebrate this in the Hiawatha neighborhood. I'm really lucky to represent this community and welcome you to Wakpata Apartments. I'm going to give Sean Sweeney and Jeff Hall a shout out in just a little bit, but I also wanted to note with Wakpata, the name of this building means creek in Dakota. And that was really about honoring Indigenous people, but also ensuring that Indigenous people, Dakota people, were included in the process. And there were Indigenous linguists and artists that put their hands on this building and were a part of it. And I think that's just a wonderful thing to name, as we're so close to the creek and water is life. So I just wanted to acknowledge that here and thank them for making that consideration. I also wanted to, as IGR chair, thank our incredible IGR staff team. Yes. They deserve a round of applause. They spent many long nights at the Capitol. Thank our Minneapolis delegation, Representative Howard, yes. Representative Sidney Jordan, Senator Fateh, and a whole coalition of legislators, honestly, representing suburbs that saw that this was regionally really important to preserve our 2040 plan, but also to preserve the ability to implement a comprehensive plan. Because we know cities need to be able to build density and build sustainably in order to be inherently climate resilient. So I'm really excited about that, really excited to see the partnerships with labor, see Dan McConnell, Rick Varco that's here, MPHA, who really showed up, and the partners that we had at League of Minnesota Cities. Yes. And again, to the representatives, you spent a lot of long nights in a session that was supposed to be short but felt long, and you ensured through those long hours that foundationally there will be generations of increased housing and increased affordability, not only in Minneapolis, but in our region, and that's something incredible to celebrate. So Mayor Fry was right. Before I got elected, the 2040 plan and inclusionary zoning specifically was an issue that was really important to me. When I was a policy aide first starting out at City Hall, one of the first pieces of policy that I touched was the unified housing policy and working on inclusionary zoning. And I'm really, really proud to say that this is one of the buildings, Wakpata, that benefits from inclusionary zoning. We have affordable units here. This is one that was made possible through the 2040 plan, one that is really core to building sustainably in our communities. And I just wanted to acknowledge the fact that this has been transformational for this corner in our neighborhood of Ward 12, right? This has made it possible to be increasingly one of the most walkable neighborhoods in the city of Minneapolis. We're really close to the light rail. We're really close to a grocery store. We have Minnehaha Corridor that has a bunch of small businesses, other housing for neighborhoods and neighbors just to connect with one another. And I am just really proud to introduce Jeff Hall and Sean Sweeney of Hall Sweeney Properties, the developers of Wakpata, and just say that this is a great example of how community-centric development and affordable housing can coexist. So thank you.
Well said, well said.
Thank you, Councilwoman. It's great to have you and the mayor and all this wonderful group that made this happen. I'm Jeff Hall with Hall Sweeney Properties, and my partner Sean Sweeney will speak about the building. But I wanted to share the big picture. As our council member said, this is a great location, right? It's a terrific neighborhood in the city. We've got the light rail, grocery store, walkable streets with nice local retail, the park, the river. It's a fantastic location. So it's a great spot for density, and the zoning in the 2040 plan allowed for that. And because of that, we now have 125 new homes who can benefit from this wonderful area. And as we were looking to develop this site, we realized we were going through the racial equity discussions in 2020 and 2021, and we realized that there are 3 Dakota sacred sites a stone's throw away from this location. So we decided to work with our Dakota friends and work with them to tie in their culture, their language, and their art into this project to the fullest extent we could. And that's what they want, to keep their culture alive and their language alive. So we had a linguist who we have Wakpata, means creek and water is life. And Wakpata is a great name because it's the creek is right here and the water is so important. When you come in the front door, there's a water wall. And we have bilingual signage throughout. We have a public art plaza down on the street with Angela Two Stars, who's a national treasure of an artist, featured in the New York Times, and she's got some great art down there. And we have 5 or 6 other American Indian artists represented throughout the building, in the elevator lobbies, and the fitness center, and the Zoom rooms. So we really tried to pull in the culture and the values. We have native landscaping. We have a green roof. We have EVs because American Indians also believe in sustainability and taking care of our climate. So those are some of the important features we had with our Dakota partners. And now Sean will talk more about the building itself.
All right.
Hi, thanks, Jeff, and thanks everyone for coming and for all the kind words that everyone has spoken about our building. We put, as Jeff alluded to, several years of hard work and a lot of thought and a lot of time into this building. So we're really proud of the final results and the fact that it's resonated so well with not only the market of renters out there, but also with the community. So that's really, really important to us. I've worked in several markets around the country, and I can say without a doubt that being a developer in Minneapolis, especially now with the 2040 plan, is an absolute dream. And I say that because the 2040 plan and the zoning that it's set up allows us to focus our time and energy on the things that matter, creating good buildings, creating good communities, creating the right type of units, the right type of amenities, and finding the right type of tenants. We don't have to spend as much time fighting with cities, having neighbors argue, all of the other things that come along with development in so many other places. When we put this site together, initially it was a gas station on the corner. That would have allowed us to build around 70 units, 60 to 70 units. We would have had very limited parking, and it was a very tight, difficult site to put together. But because the 2040 plan was passed as we were working on that site, we quickly realized that there were 2 other parcels, a single family home that a woman was desperate to sell, and an investor-owned duplex to the south. So what the 2040 plan allowed us to do was go from a smaller 60 to 70 unit building with limited parking and no amenities to, as Jeff said, this 6-story, 126 unit building with enough parking, with Cafe Ceres on the first floor, another tenant that will be coming soon, and 126 units at around 80% AMI, which meets a lot of needs in the community. And we have 8% of the units here, which amounts to 10 units in this building, that are affordable at 60% AMI as well. I think we were the first building in the city of Minneapolis to have the inclusionary housing policy apply to us. So we were the first ones to put that in the building. Every subsequent building we've done, over 50 units, has had that as well. So as I said, just having the 2040 plan allows a developer to be creative and to do things that benefit the community. So we're really grateful for that. I think now I'm calling Mayor Fry back up to take some questions.
Yes. So also want to recognize the director of Minneapolis Public Housing Authority, Abdi Warsami, who was just recognized yesterday for an incredible project that went up that would not have been possible but for the 2040 plan, and additionally utilized modular housing to improve both the efficiency as well as affordability of the project. This is something that explicitly Secretary Yellen was calling out, and again, we could not have done it but for 2040. Big thank you also, as Councilmember Chowdhury mentioned, to our IGR team. They worked tirelessly this last legislative session. Thank you. Thank you. And to our lawyers who have been working at it for several years now. You know, they don't get the credit that they deserve a lot of time, but they're brilliant and they're doing great work. And so with that, I'll open it to any questions you might have.
Mr. Mayor,
yes.
The plan was designed pre-COVID here. Now we're in a post-COVID era. Is there any adjustments that the city is making to the plan to adapt to some of the new realities that we have in the city?
The old reality was that people wanted to live in the city of Minneapolis, and the new reality is that people want to live in the city of Minneapolis. And so we've been going through an ongoing, we've had an ongoing direction of trying to add supply of housing to our city. And by the way, a lot of this goes back before the 2040 plan was instituted as well. When I was a city council member, we wanted to dramatically increase the supply of housing in our city, both market rate and affordable housing. And what you find is that when you significantly increase that supply, when supply meets the demand, you don't have those dramatic rent increases that other cities have seen. Again, you don't need to take my word for it. Look at the numbers. Minneapolis has been able to keep rents in check more than almost any other city in the country, and that is in large part due to the supply increases that we've seen and we've pushed for, and that is certainly helped by plans like 2040. Again, don't need to take my word for it. Look at the data, because the data can speak for itself. So we're going to continue to try to increase the supply of housing in our city, because we believe that everybody should have the right to live in a great city, and we believe that everybody should have the right to a home. That's part of what this is about. Susan. Well, we'll get you more of a list of one. I'll give you one example of a project that happened. Well, this was one. And I'll give you another example of a project that has happened. And then I'll give you an example of a project that got stalled out. Projects specifically through the Minneapolis Public Housing Authority took lots that previously had 1 unit on them and put 6 or 8 or 20 units on them. And when you're able to do that, not only are you increasing the amount of affordable housing that you have in the city, you're also maximizing what you can do with the given dollars you have. And so people will often ask me, how do you get affordable housing throughout the city, both in lower income and in middle and upper income neighborhoods? And the first answer is you got to allow for it. And while technically we did, practically we didn't, because it doesn't make a lot of sense to dump a whole bunch of money to make one single family unit affordable. You could have just a little bit more money and get several units. And so that's what this plan allows for. So the Minneapolis Public Housing Authority took these units that were previously single family or single unit, and they added quite a few. Another example is Envision Communities. Now, I need to check with the developer to see where exactly we are on that and how much we can get those revived. Perhaps Director Hansen can weigh in on given the present status of it. But Envision Communities was an idea that was not mine at all. It came from people who were experiencing homelessness. They wanted to create a community that was responding to their needs. They wanted to create development that was responding to what they were seeing on a daily basis. And Envision Communities was a great example of that and was stalled out entirely by the 2040 plan. That's an example of something that we want to see revived yet again. Go ahead.
Still needs to happen before the 2040 lawsuit is actually closed?
So there's presently a request for certification or a request for the Supreme Court to hear the matter. The city of Minneapolis obviously is of the position that this important clarification has been made, and we can now move forward with the 2040 plan, which is obviously what we're now doing. Now, I don't want to speak for the plaintiffs in the matter, but the shift that the state made in legislation clarifies the present law, or clarifies the previous law, and allows us to move forward.
Mr. Mayor, kind of off topic here, I want to address the elephant in the room here.
We got probably a few elephants in the room, but let me take those afterwards.
Okay, right.
Got one in the back there.
Yes.
Oh, well, I just discovered yesterday when I was considering selling my house that I've lived in for 30 years across the street.
Yes.
Meanwhile, they put up 7 apartment buildings surrounding my house.
Yes.
All around here. But I discovered now, if you try to live in an apartment or a condominium, after we worked for 50 years to get marijuana legal, they act like you can't use weed if you're in an apartment or a condo. And you have to have your own house. It should be the other way around. The people that don't want to let people use weed should go buy their own house. That's what can I say? What does anyone say? I mean, what can we do about that? It's a terrible conundrum. Because a lot of people that have to live in apartments use weed. It's really true.
I believe that you should be able to use weed as well. I'm not sure of the present law and how it works functionally. I imagine the same restrictions that would apply to smoking would also apply to cannabis use in general.
Just like alcohol and weed are not the same.
No, they're different. Yeah,
Not the same as weed. I mean, you can look
that's different. Yeah, fair point.
I mean, weed
Yeah.
doesn't cause cancer like tobacco.
Yeah, agree with that. Yeah.
It's not the same.
I'm sorry, say it again. We will continue to litigate if that is the route that is chosen. Again, we believe that with this legislation, the matter is largely settled. Obviously, the Supreme Court can make a decision whether or not to hear it. Thank you, everybody. Thanks so much.
To that end, too, to that end, too, our legislative intent was very clear that this was a bill to end this lawsuit and to defend the Minneapolis 2040 plan. I said it multiple times in committee. I said it on the floor, as did Chair Howard. That is unassailable, that our legislative intent was clear from the beginning, and we'll say it again. The other thing is that we believe in this plan. You know, we took huge steps this year to defend it, and, you know, we will continue to do so as necessary. But the legislative intent is clear that this is a bill that is designed to end this lawsuit.
That's the intent. Look at that. Straight from the representative's mouth. There you go. Let's do it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Great.
That was same spot. Good.
Really smart. In the background.